Support for this podcast comes from the St. Alphonsus Neuroscience Institute, offering technology to provide treatment for neurological, neurosurgical, and neurointerventional conditions. This includes a dedicated neurotrauma ICU for critical care of the brain or spine and a 24/7 stroke team. More at stalphonsus.org.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's Daily News. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. At the Capitol, a new bill has surfaced that targets social media addiction. And at the Statesman and papers across the Northwest, McClatchy employees who are members of a union are wanting some guardrails on AI. It is Thursday, the 5th of February. Here we go with today's stories. More than 500 people attended a town hall at the Idaho Capitol last night in defense of Medicaid. In emotional testimonies, families, patients, and advocates pleaded to preserve Medicaid services vital to loved ones and special needs people. Julie Lukatau reports.
For almost 4 hours, attendees waited in overflow rooms before taking turns in front of the Democrat-led forum. Caregivers described how pay cuts to home services and canceled special needs programs threatened the well-being and, in some cases, survival of vulnerable children and adults. Megan Case, whose daughter has complex medical issues, spoke about the impact of the cuts on special needs families.
They're tired of having to beg for the bare minimum. They're tired of having to justify everything they ask for. And they're tired of being part of a village that doesn't value them as a villager.
Robert Wagner, head of a recovery program, described how cuts would ultimately cost more money to the state.
You can pay now or pay more later, right? When treatment's cut, the needs don't disappear. It goes to more expensive settings. Emergency rooms, jails, prisons, psychiatric hospitals, courts, CPS, foster care, law enforcement.
Tony Reyna came to the podium with her young son, Kai, born prematurely.
I will continue to fight for his life, but Idaho is supposed to be a safe place for him. So don't cut Medicaid.
Last fall, Governor Brad Little cut Medicaid provider rates by $23 million. In January, he asked legislators to cut an additional $22 million to help balance the state budget. Julie Lukatau, Boise State Public Radio News.
Governor Brad Little fired one of Idaho's human rights commissioners days after far-right activists shared some of her social media posts related to immigration enforcement in Minnesota. James Dawson reports.
Estella Zamora served on the state's Human Rights Commission under Democratic and Republican governors beginning in the 90s. One of her recent Facebook posts shared information about a protest urging federal immigration officials to leave Minneapolis. Another from last year compared members of the far-right Proud Boys and white supremacist Ku Klux Klan to gang members. Brian Allman works doing social media for the Idaho Republican Party and has previously worked for far-right political organizations.
We should draw a line and say somebody with these views should not be in this government position.
He made those comments on a web show called the Idaho Signal last week, shortly after Zamora's nomination hearing. Zamora says she's not opposed to enforcing immigration laws, but not in the way ICE has been operating that's resulted in the deaths of 2 U.S. citizens.
There's no reason for ICE to be going to that extreme.
A few days after the web show, Governor Little fired her and withdrew her nomination. Zamora said she never heard from the administration despite knowing Little for years.
Allow me the courtesy and give me a call or, even email me anything. I think that is what is the most frustrating to me.
A spokesperson for the governor's office didn't immediately respond to questions. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Across the nation, state legislatures are seeing what they can do about social media addiction. In Idaho Wednesday, lawmakers were asked to support something called the Stop Harms from Addictive Social Media Act. The sponsor is GOP Representative Jaron Crane of Nampa.
You can't drive down the freeway and look over and not see some kid on their phone who's supposedly driving a vehicle. You can't go to a ball game and look at people up in the bleachers and not see a kid doom scrolling. Whether you're Black Friday shopping and they're standing in line, or whether you're just going around town, they're walking on the sidewalk bumping into each other, they're addicted to their phones.
Crane insists that his is the first bill of its kind in the nation because if approved, he says it would require some of the most active social media platforms in the world to implement and monitor and enforce the act. Among other things, they would have to estimate the age of a user if they wanted to use a certain app or platform. They would have to make sure there is verified parental consent. They would have to stop targeted advertising. And above all, they have to remove addictive social media. Chelsea Yeoman is with the group Alliance Defending Freedom.
An addicted social media user is a profitable one. Every like, every click, every comment, every follow, every video that is watched is information about our children.
There was one person who testified against the bill. Aidan Downey is a lobbyist with the Computer and Communications Industry Association. He argues such a measure would likely be challenged in court.
It treats all social media as harmful contraband, effectively stripping teenagers of the rights to access lawful information. By broadly controlling how covered businesses organize, present, and prioritize information to users, the bill creates content-based restrictions on speech that raise First Amendment concerns.
On Wednesday, there was much explanation of the bill. It is rather lengthy, but there was not much testimony. Ultimately, the State Affairs Committee gave House Bill 542 overwhelming support, sending it to the full House for its consideration. Idaho readers will know McClatchy as the parent company of the Idaho Statesman. And indeed, there's a chance that readers have come across a story that maybe AI had a hand in. Journalists are trying to get some guardrails on that technology in their union contracts. McClatchy owns a number of newspapers across the Northwest. In addition to Boise, they own papers in Tacoma, Bellingham, and the Tri-Cities. Lauren Gallup is with Northwest Public Broadcasting.
Tacoma News Tribune reporters Peter Talbot and Christine Sherrod are showing me articles on the website that were generated by an artificial intelligence tool.
There was a 6 recent criminal sentencings in Pierce County Superior Court story. Yeah, it says stories by Tacoma News Tribune journalists with AI summarization.
McClatchy Media has been experimenting with AI tools to generate content. Journalists have seen the tools rewrite some of their stories or create articles that bring together a bunch of different stories that are similar in topic. For the most part, Sherrod and Talbot say they don't know before if a story they reported is being used for AI content generation. Here's Sherrod.
And then our name and our work is being attached to something that, to a certain extent, we don't have much control over.
Journalists at McClatchy Papers are unionized. Sherrod says one of the big priorities for their next contract is establishing rules on how McClatchy can use AI.
We can't stop AI from happening, and we can't stop the company from trying to use it. But we can ensure that it's done in a fair and ethical way that aligns with our journalistic integrity.
McClatchy has published an article about how it uses AI on its news sites. The company did not respond to a request for an interview. I'm Lauren Gallup.
And that is today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Prentice. Say, here's what I really would like you to do. You can thank me later. Sign up for our legislative newsletter. It really breaks down all of the goings-on at the Capitol, and it arrives in your inbox every Monday. You can subscribe at boisestatepublicradio.org. I'll be back here tomorrow on The Connector. Until then, thanks for listening.
Hi, it's Terry Gross, host of Fresh Air. Hey, take a break from the 24-hour news cycle with us and listen to long-form interviews with your favorite authors, actors, filmmakers, comedians, and musicians, the people making the art that nourishes us and speaks to our times. So listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.